good evening, one and all. Welcome to Life Empowerment Center International here on Fab Friday, here on Facebook Live. I welcome each and every one of you who are tuning in and joining us here on tonight. I'm grateful for every one of you that decided to tune in and to see what's going on tonight here on Fab Friday here on Facebook Live here at Life Empowerment Center International. It's me, Pastor LaMarcus Carter, the pastor here, and I welcome you all in. We thank God on this week, as we always do. We're always grateful to God because all the things that are going on in this world, all the commotion that's going on, all the turmoil that's going on, some of the infighting even within the Christian faith that is hurting and harmful to us. Those things that we hear about when we see people who put their politics over their faith, or their looks, or who they are over their faith. When we see those things, we thank God because we know that in the midst of all of that turmoil, in the midst of all of that pain, in the midst of all of that confusion, God is still keeping us. Even though there's confusion everywhere, even though there seems to be some type of rift everywhere, some type of commotion everywhere, we're thankful to God that in the midst of all that, in the midst of all the changes, in the midst of all the waves, in the midst of everything that's going on, God is still with us. So we thank God on tonight for protecting us, guiding us, and being with us like only He can. I thank each and every one of you. Listen, my wife, I'm joined by my wife, as I always am. My better half. I love her. I honor her. Thank God for her. My wife, Keisha Carter. My children, Tania and Layla Carter. I thank God for each one of them. I'm thankful for my family on tonight. I got to spend some time with my family last week, and I'm grateful for my dad and aunts and uncles that I saw last week. I'm grateful for my mom and I'm grateful for everybody. I'm grateful that I still have my family here with me. It is a blessing to still have your parents still in your life. So I honor them on tonight. Thank God for them on tonight. We're going to continue our teaching on right faith yields overwhelming success. So we're going to continue that teaching on tonight. I just want to say, because March is Women's History Month, right? We follow up Black History Month with Women's History Month. And I'm going to honor a woman who I think is an inspiration to myself, an inspiration to those who have been in her presence. A woman that I believe has just started, or hasn't even really started, to reach her full potential in the areas that she'll go into. A woman that I believe deserves all the honor that she receives, and a woman that I see every single day of my life. I'm blessed to see every single day of my life. In Women's History Month, I'm honoring a woman who was born in March, who celebrated her birthday just on yesterday, the 4th. I'm honoring my wife, Keisha Carter, in Women's History Month. You may say, well, what has she done to be historic, right? I'll tell you what she's done to be historic. She is the example of a strong woman who is also a dynamic mother and a fantastic wife, right? And I don't say those things because it's Friday night and you know how married people are. But I don't say those things because of that. I say those things because I've been married to her for almost 10 years now. We've been dating and married in a relationship for almost 15 years. And She's always been an inspiration and a guide for me in my life, right? And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that faking. I say that she's always truly been an inspiration for me. So I thank God for her. I see how she inspires Layla. I see how she inspires others who are blessed to be in her presence. And one of the things that she's been dedicated to, and this doesn't minimize her, right? Because sometimes when you say someone is dedicated to family, when you say a woman is dedicated to family, people immediately jump in and say, no, that's sexist, or that's this, that's that. No. It takes a strong woman to be dedicated to their family. If you have had a mother who's done the sacrifices, right? Who've done those things that were uncomfortable to them, or if you are a mother who's done things that's been uncomfortable, you know how powerful it is to be stable and strong and dedicated to your family. So I honor my wife here in Women's History Month, not just because it was her birthday yesterday, but because I am blessed to be able to share life with her and to be able to watch her as she continues to walk and grows in things of Christ. So I honor my wife on tonight, the other day I did send her Proverbs 5:17 through 19. Read that in your later time. It's married people stuff. But let's go on into the word. Let's go on into the teaching on tonight. We're talking about right faith yields overwhelming success. Before we do, let's make our victory proclamation. Repeat after me. I am victorious. I walk in victorious faith. I serve a victorious God. Therefore, I live a victorious life. For I know God's plan for me is success, abundance, and victory. Father, we thank you. We honor you for allowing all of us to come together here on tonight. We pray that you speak to your people through me, your vessel. In Jesus' name, amen. So, we're talking about right faith yields overwhelming success. Now, last week, we talked about overwhelming success in the biblical viewpoint, right? We talked about what it means to be successful according to God's eyes. And the points that we or the principles that we shared last week was overwhelming success is the product of our work. It was that God has given us everything we need. God has given us never forget that one. God has given us everything we need for overwhelming success. You don't have to look any further. God has already given you everything you need for overwhelming success, right? We talked about how we all have access to success, but we aren't created equal, meaning you can't worry about someone else's return, whether it's greater than yours, because you get the best return for what you have, right? And then we said your work for the master defines your success, and you are held accountable for your success. That's what we talked about last week when we discussed the biblical viewpoint of overwhelming success. Now tonight was somewhat of a struggle for me. Let me give you a little backstory on why tonight, because we're talking about natural success tonight, why it was somewhat of a struggle for me. So just a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago maybe, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, I was watching this documentary on the Black church, right? It was a PBS documentary. Yes, I'm a nerd. Yes, I was watching this PBS documentary on the Black church, and it was good. I mean, it was short. I wish it was a little longer. They left a lot of meat on the bone, but it was a documentary done by Dr. Henry Louis Gates, right? He's known for connecting people to their roots, right? He's done a lot of work with teaching African Americans where they came from, like what tribes they came from, things of that nature. But Dr. Henry Louis Gates did this documentary about the Black church, and one area that they touched on, and again, they didn't really expound on it as much as I wanted them to, right? But they touched on that after black liberation theology, which was kind of spearheaded by Dr. James Cone, and then taken to the next level by Reverend Jeremiah Wright, was that after that happened, when Black Americans started to assimilate to the middle class, and they started to make some inroads into equity and equality, that after those things started to happen, what rose was a new version, so to speak, or a new interpretation of the gospel. What rose was spearheaded by preachers like Reverend Ike and things of that nature, and preachers of that nature was the prosperity gospel. Right now, it only touched on it for a very brief moment, and I think there was some depth that they left out there because all aspects of if you really kind of dig deep into some aspects of the prosperity gospel, you'll find out that some of it, that there are portions of it that are biblical based, right? There are portions of it that are biblical based. But the overarching theme that comes when people say things such as prosperity gospel is, the big issue of that is that it puts your will and your desires and your success and how well you're doing before what's God's will and what's God's desire for your life, right? It has specifically what they were talking about in the documentary. And if you have a chance, it's on PBS, right? Like, you can watch anything on PBS. It's free. But you should watch it. But the problem with what they were talking about, the prosperity gospel being talked about in the documentary, and the overarching theme from many who follow that gospel or follow that interpretation of the gospel, I don't really know. Many people who follow that it's a capitalistic type thing. It's like, how well am I doing determines my relationship with God, or my relationship with God is why I have everything that I have, right? It puts what I have or what I've done before what God has done for me. You understand what I'm saying? It puts my possessions or my success before it puts my ministry call, before it places the call of God on my life. My success is what determines, right, my life. And so one of the struggles that I had was I had to walk on this tightrope where we're discussing natural success, right, while also acknowledging that we're still walking in God's will. If this is your first time joining us, or if you haven't heard me teach before, I always make sure at some point within the teaching that I always refer things back to the text, and I always refer things back to Christ. I'm always talking about God's will and God's purpose, because I never want to get to a place where I'm starting to spout off random feel-good sayings, right? I don't ever want a principle that I'm teaching on to just be something that looks good on a refrigerator magnet, or something that looks good on a calendar. I don't know why I said who has refrigerator magnets that looks good on like an IG post or something like that. You have an random actor in the background, then some principal that I taught, like, he has that quote. But I never want it to be something that's superficial. I want it to always be rooted in and always be connected to God's will and God's purpose. So there's a tightrope that you have to walk here. And if I'm being honest with you, and I know I can be honest, is that when I said last week that we were going to talk about natural success this week, I had no plans on talking about natural success. Like I said it, and as I'm saying, I'm like, wow, I really didn't want to say that. But I knew that it was the Holy Spirit directing me and guiding me to say something like that, because I don't want natural success to be the focus or the thrust of why you're living for Christ. I don't want people to say I'm living for Christ because, you know, he's my Santa Claus or he's my sugar daddy. I don't want that to be the reason, or that to be the reason you're connected to Christ. Like, as long as things aren't going the way that you want them to, you'll be dedicated and connected to Christ. And then as soon as things start going your way, now all of a sudden you leave the gospel, you leave the faith. So there's this struggle I had, being honest, where I wanted to make sure that if I'm talking about natural success, I must first give you what biblical success is. I must first talk about what God's will is, God's purpose is, and then now I can start to talk about things like natural success. But God's will, God's purpose is always more important. God's will and God's purpose always takes precedent over anything that we're teaching. So tonight, after we had a time of discussing God's viewpoint of success, after we have a time of discussing the biblical view of success, after we've gained some of those biblical principles regarding success, now we can see, not what I say, but what God says in his word about success. So let's go to, I'm almost done too. I'm almost done. About time to say that. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 11. 11 Ecclesiastes. I'll be reading from the Message translation. Ecclesiastes 11, 1 through 10. This is King Solomon writing. We understand that King Solomon was a man of wisdom. A lot of Ecclesiastes talks about natural things, right? Ecclesiastes, this is what Solomon is revealing to us in this text. The wisest king in the Old Testament. He's revealing to us some keys to success, right? Some biblical principles to success. So let's read the text. We'll start at the first verse, 11th chapter. Be generous. Invest in acts of charity. Charity yields high returns. Don't hoard your goods. Spread them around. Be a blessing to others. This could be your last night. When the clouds are full of water, it rains. When the wind blows down a tree, it lies where it falls. Don't sit there watching the wind. Do your own work. Don't stare at the clouds. Get on with your life. Just as you'll never understand the mystery of life forming in a pregnant woman, you'll never understand the mystery at work in all that God does. Go to work in the morning and stick to it until evening without watching the clock. You never know from moment to moment how your work will turn out in the end. Before the years take their toll, oh, how sweet the light of day, and how wonderful to live in the sunshine, even if you live a long time. Don't take a single day for granted. Take delight in each light-filled hour, remembering that there will also be many dark days, and that most of what comes your way is smoke. You who are young, make the most of your youth. Relish your youthful vigor. Follow the impulses of your heart. If something looks good to you, pursue it. But know also that not just anything goes. You have to answer to God for every last bit of it. Live footloose and fancy free. You won't be young forever. Youth lasts about as long as smoke. So tonight, thank God for that word. Tonight, for that text. Tonight we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you the first four life principles that deal with natural success as told to us by the King Solomon. All right, 4 points. I'll be out your way. We'll be done. Ready? The first one is natural success doesn't come without giving first. The first verse says, be generous, invest in acts of charity. Charity yields high return. This is a basic business principle that all successful people learn right away. There's no return without investment. There's no reward without risk. The Super Bowl winning coach from Patterson, New Jersey, Bruce Arians, loves to say that you have to risk it to get the biscuit. I just like saying that. There is nothing that returns to you unless you put something out, right? That nothing will come back to you, right? Unless you're sending something out to be returned. I can't go fishing with no pole and no bait. I'll never be able to catch anything unless I'm one of those guys that reaches their hand down to fish. Again, I'm from Patterson, New Jersey. I don't fish. However, if I was fishing, I would need bait. I would need the right equipment. I would need to send something out to be able to reel something in, right? It's true if you want to succeed in any area of your life, whether you're seeking success in business, in school, in ministry, in a relationship. Nothing starts unless you are willing to put something in as an investment. There are no opportunities for success in anything without an investment of time, effort, self-discipline, and general giving of self. I cannot expect to have a successful relationship if I'm not willing to put some time in building that relationship. What sacrifice am I making there? What am I doing there to be able to get a return? I want to be successful in ministry. If I want ministry to be successful, that means that some time has to be put in. Some money has to be put in. There must be some type of financial sacrifice to get a return. You cannot have a return, by definition, you can't have a return without sending something out first. You want to build that business, right? You want to start a successful business. You want to start a successful business. You don't just wake up one day and say, okay, I want to start a successful business. Here's my plan, and just open up a door, right? If you want to start a business, whether, let's say that's a clothing business, let's say you want to start that up, you have to invest something because you have to get the materials to put out a return. The problem is a lot of us want to be successful but don't want to give anything up. Okay. All right. A lot of us want to be successful. We want success. We desire success. We desire to have something that we are proud of, something that we can take pride in, but we are too afraid to give something up. We're too afraid to give up time. We're too afraid to give up money. We're too afraid to put something in to get something back. So we want to know why we're not successful. It's because you have to be able to, or you have to have something. You have to give something up to get that return. People who don't succeed have excuses and blame. They have resentment and anger. Those who do succeed do so because they are willing to give something of themselves in order to achieve their goals. The more you give, the more you'll get. You want to be successful? You want one of the keys or one of the principles to natural success? You have to be able to give something up. You can't have a successful business. You can't have a successful relationship. You can't be a successful father. You can't be a successful husband. You can't have this success unless you're giving something up. Principle number 2, natural success. Natural success must diversify. That sounds real fancy, don't it? Natural success must diversify. Second verse says, don't hoard your goods, spread them around, be a blessing to others. Successful people understand the reality of the world. That sometimes, most of the times, a lot of the times, bad things happen. Being prepared for the worst is wise. Being prepared for bad things that may happen is wise. It's smart to have a backup plan. It's smart to have a second window of opportunity. It's smart to have something in place in case option one doesn't work out. How terrible or how bad is it if you plan something and you only have one option? If you put in a destination on your phone, right? If you open up your phone, you go to Google Maps or Apple, whatever maps you use, you go to Google Maps, you put in your destination, you'll get at least 2 or 3 different ways to get there. And the reason they give you so many different ways is because if one way has an accident, or if another way has maybe a stop that you need to make, or another way may have some tolls that you don't want to pay, you always have different options to get to the same place. You always have diversified options to get to the same place. You can't start off on a journey to success and say, that's the only way I'm going to do it. I'm closing up my mind. I'm closing up my ideas. I'm closing up my thoughts. I'm focusing on this one way. And if I gain new information, I'm not going to do anything with that new information. I'm throwing that out the window because this one way has to work. One of the most important lessons you must understand about success is that it always doesn't come at the first try. Too many times we see this, these fairy tales, these stories of someone who tried something once and immediately succeeded. I'm going to sound old, but Forrest Gump was a cool movie, right? And I know that was almost 30 years ago, 20-something years ago that Forrest Gump came out. But that was a pretty cool movie. It was okay when it came out. But there's no way a man walks around in his life, succeeds at everything at his first try. That's not realistic. Success doesn't always come with the first try. It doesn't always come with the second chance, and it doesn't always come with the third idea. Sometimes it comes later. Sometimes it comes after several tries and in an area we never would have imagined. Success doesn't come immediately, and it doesn't come on your first try. You have to be open to trying different ways and different options to get success. There was a time, many of you may not know this, but there was a time when Apple was struggling, right? When Apple, the manufacturer of iPhones, iPads, all that foolishness. When Apple was struggling, Steve Jobs was fired. He started Apple, then he was fired. Big story. Steve Jobs wasn't with the company, and they were almost sold to a company by the name of Sun Microsystems for like $5 a share. They were almost sold for nothing, a very fraction of its worth. But instead of them giving up, they brought Steve Jobs back. They continued to develop and expand their products. They continued to develop new ideas. They didn't stop because they had to grow into being the international leader that they are now. But they had to go through that struggle portion, and that portion where the doors were almost closed and the company was almost sold. But it didn't stop them from seeking success. They didn't give up at the first sign of failure. There are many businesses that have started that have failed within the first year. It doesn't mean that person stops trying. They open up their mind to new ideas. They see what else they can try. They see what else they can do to be a success. Successful people develop as many of their talents and pursue as many of their opportunities as time and energy permit. The old saying is don't pour all your eggs into one basket, and it also applies to success. You may fail the first time, you may give up the second time, you may lose everything the third time, but that doesn't mean that you stop coming up with ideas. How many people have you heard of that were going to give up and then they kept coming up with ideas? Like Tyler Perry was homeless at one point making plays. What happened? He kept going. He kept coming up with ideas. Will Smith lost everything after, the Fresh Prince, and then he had to come out with a television show. He lost everything before he became the star that he is now. Many people in business lose a lot. But if you're driven by success and you desire success, you'll know that you'll have to have different ideas and you have to be able to diversify. Principle number 3, natural success doesn't worry about what you can't check. Natural success doesn't worry about what you can't check or control. Let me say that. Natural success doesn't worry about what you can't control. When verse 3 says, when the clouds are full of water, it rains. When the wind blows down a tree, it lies where it falls. Solomon uses these examples from nature to demonstrate situations over which we have no control and can't change once they take place. The idea is we don't always succeed at every step. Things happen that we can't control, and when they do, we roll with the punches. We don't stop our plan to worry about all the things that went wrong. We don't give up to count all the things that happen that we have no control over. In battle, successful generals choose when and where they will fight. They rarely go into battles that they don't believe they will win. And in the worst case scenario, they are able to recognize when they can't win and cut their losses in order to survive and fight another day. Oh man, every time I hear "Fight Another Day," I think of another very old movie. I have all old movie references tonight. I guess I'm getting old. But another older movie. What was it? Friday, a classic movie. When Craig was fighting Debo. No, it was before Craig was fighting Debo. But Pops was telling Craig and Smokey, he was like, nah, son, you use your hands, because if you lose, you live to fight another day. I don't even know that's how he said it in the movie. He was telling him not to use a gun and use his hands, because if you use your hands, you got another chance. You may lose, and you really have no control over that. You may lose to the bigger, better man, but you live to fight another day. You may mess up and fail at this right now, but you live to have another chance. To succeed, we need to invest our energy in viable causes and not worry about past mistakes or the lack of resources or the lack of talent. Yes, you've made a mistake in the past. I'm gonna break this to you. You may not know this. I'm gonna break some news to you. You ready? This is gonna be broken news. I don't want to share your secrets. People are going to just be finding this out, but you've made some mistakes. Okay, I know you're shocked. Clutch your pearls. Elizabeth, here I come. You have made some mistakes in the past. Yes, those mistakes caused you to lose out on some things, but you can't do anything about it now. That's a wrap. You can't do anything about that mistake you made previously. You have no control over what happened already. There's no time machine. There's no rewind button for life. You've made the mistake. You've messed up in the past. You now have no control over what happened that day. That day is gone. You can't get those hours back. Stop worrying about it. Don't worry about what you can't control. Don't worry about what you can't control. The weather isn't right today. You have no control over the weather. Or I don't think you're an X-Men. You have no control over that. Worry about control what you can to the best of your ability, and stop worrying about things in the past and things you have no control over. To succeed, we need to use what we have where we'll do the most good without regard for those things that are impossible for us to control. You can't control someone else's attitude when you first see them. You have no control over that. They in a bad attitude today. Okay, you in a bad attitude today. I ain't gonna let that bother my attitude. Oh, this traffic is crazy. This traffic is all over the place. I now got a bad attitude. I can't face it. No, I ain't. That's not gonna stop me from being successful today. No. You can't control everything. You don't have control everywhere. Natural success doesn't worry about things that they can't control. It's my last point for tonight. My last principle for tonight. Natural success doesn't hesitate. Okay. Natural success doesn't hesitate. The fourth verse says this. It says, don't sit there watching the wind. Do your own work. Don't stare at the clouds. Get on with your life. I'm going to break some more news to you. You ready? This is going to be shocking, because I know some of you are waiting for it, right? I know some of you are anticipating it. You're waiting for the perfect time. You ready? I'm gonna tell you when the perfect time is. This is fresh. This is hot off the press. I'm gonna tell you when the perfect time is. You ready? There is never a perfect time. There's never a perfect time to start. There's never a perfect time to begin. In most instances, we simply need to begin or else lose the opportunity at hand. Either we move or we miss. We either make the move or we miss. There's always a reason to put off doing something. There's always a reason to not do it. There's always a pretty good excuse for not starting something challenging. There's always a reason to not do something difficult. There's always a reason to not start something that's life-changing. That you can always find a reason not to start. You can always find a reason not to start. Especially when it's something tough that you don't want to do. Even though you have success in that area, that doesn't mean you always want, you're not, I shouldn't say you don't want to do it, but you're not as motivated to do it as you should be, right? You know you have to do it. You know you'll be successful at it, but you're not always motivated to do it. If I walk out into my hallway right now, see, I've been here for almost 2 months. I've been here for 2 months, right? Over 2 months. If I walk out into my hallway right now, the hallway that I started painting a while ago ain't done yet. And the reason why is because I start to find reasons not to do it. Oh, it's a little too humid. It's a little too humid. It's not even a reason. A little too humid in the house. Now, even though it's not really that humid. Oh man, you know what? My back hurt a little bit on the left side. I don't think, I hurt my neck the other day, and I should have started it at 7. I didn't start it at 7, so I'm just gonna put it off another day. But that's what happens. Which now I have to paint the hallway. We always try to find reasons or find excuses not to do it. Reasons not to start. Reasons not to begin. There is never a perfect time. Never. Never a perfect time. This is why there are only a few people. There's only a few people who make it to the Olympics. There's only a few people who do great things, like go to the, few astronauts. There's only a few people who become all-time greats in whatever field they are. Successful people act on their plans, their goals, and their vision without hesitation. They don't stop. They don't hesitate. They don't just stand there like they're getting ready to double dutch. You know, that double dutch position, and you know that you're waiting for the rope to turn the right way, and they don't stand there with hesitation. They jump right in because they're already waiting their turn. They've been waiting already. They're not going to wait any longer. We've all had ideas and plans that we thought out. We've had outlines and figured out how it could be done. We did all the prep work to get started, and we said we'll start it tomorrow. But guess what? Tomorrow has never come. It's the never-ending tomorrow. I've never seen tomorrows like this, but we've always said we'll start it tomorrow. We'll start it in the morning, and somehow tomorrow morning doesn't come. A better time isn't going to come. A time when it's easier isn't going to come. The best time to begin the plan that God is giving you for success is now. Don't wait. You already have the plan. Like, you already have the plan. What are we hesitating for? What are we waiting for? In January, we talked all about planning. Now God has given us plans. Start. Don't hesitate. Successful people don't hesitate. Natural success doesn't hesitate. Why? Watch me do this backwards. Natural success doesn't hesitate because it doesn't worry about the things that it has no control over. It always is. It's diversified and has many backup plans. And it already started to give first. It knows that it's going to have to give some sacrifices. So I'm done for tonight. I'm talking about natural success. As we finish talking about right faith yields overwhelming success. I have more principles dealing with natural success. And I'm going to talk about those next week. But I'm done for tonight. And my prayer is the same prayer I have every single week, which is I pray that that as we're talking about success, as we're talking about faith, as we're talking about planning throughout this year, and we're talking about this being what? This being God's year, not our year, where we're going to see God manifest himself in our life. His will in our life. And it's not going to be us trying to fulfill our selfish wills, right? I pray that you see success in your life. That's my prayer for each and every one of you. My prayer that whatever you're putting your hand to, whatever plan God has given you, you're seeing it succeed. So please join me next week as I close out. I believe I'm closing out. We'll see what God says. Please join me next week as I continue to teach on natural success as we talk about right faith yields overwhelming success. Please join me next week. I look forward to having you join us next week. If you want to make a donation and help us continue to support those who need help, this is one thing I think I have to do because I'm always finding ways to donate. I'm a weirdo like that. But in Jackson, Mississippi, did you know Jackson, Mississippi has no water for like 2 weeks? I know that's not like in New Jersey, but make sure you're praying for people who are in some of these places that are suffering just without water. Like they have no water. They have no water for the past 2 weeks. I think longer than that, but they have no water for weeks. People can't wash. They have no drinking water for weeks. So let's continue to pray for people. But anyway, if you want to donate, ministry information is there. The Cash App information. It's $LECINJ, $LECINJ. You can donate. Again, our desire is to help those who are disenfranchised, help those who need help. I think that's a very simple way of saying it. So that information is there. If next Friday at 8 p.m. actually, after Fab Friday, next Friday at 8 p.m. If you're in a relationship, if you're in a new relationship, if you're engaged, if you're married, all couples are welcome to join a discussion. It'll be at Life Empowerment Center International, Delaware. The information should be either following the service, or you can, if you're connected to the ministry, you'll have the information, and you can connect by, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, that you can text empowers you to 474747, or send an email to info@lifeempowersyou.org. But you don't want to miss next Friday evening at 8 p.m. All couples are welcome to join this discussion. That information is below as well, and it'll be following the service. Also, next week we'll be back, Fab Friday, 7 p.m. Like I said, I'll be finishing up teaching on natural success. And also on Sunday at 9 a.m., Life Empowerment Center, Delaware, Sensational Sunday. Will be Pastor Price will be, and Pastor Price and I believe Lady Price will be together at 9 a.m. On Facebook Live. I thank everybody for joining us. I don't take it lightly. I don't take it for granted that you decided to spend some time with us. If you missed anything tonight, don't worry. It'll replay on Tuesday. I encourage everybody to share, to like, to get the word out. If you're enjoying what's being taught on Friday nights, someone else will, right? That makes sense, right? If you're enjoying what's being taught, then someone else will. Someone else may need it. Maybe you watched tonight and you heard something that someone else needs. You can still share the video with them. Still let them know about what's going on here at Life Empowerment Center International in New Jersey. I thank each and every one of you again. I'm going to be praying for you on this week and praying God's will and successful living over your life. And never forget that life change begins